convoy of Ukrainian buses has set out for the southern city of Mariupol to try to reach civilians trapped by Russian forces. A Ukrainian deputy prime minister said the International Red Cross had confirmed that Russia had agreed to open a humanitarian corridor to the besieged port. Tens of thousands of civilians remain there after weeks of Russian bombardment. Meanwhile, a head of British intelligence says that Russian troops in Ukraine are demoralised, short of equipment and refusing to carry out orders. John Donnison reports.
Few people get close to Vladimir Putin. The Russian president is isolated, fighting a personal war with his own advisers too scared to tell him the truth. That's the assessment of Britain's spy chief, delivered today in a speech in Australia.
He underestimated the strength of the coalition his actions would galvanise. He underplayed the economic consequences of the sanctions regime. And he overestimated the abilities of his military to secure a rapid victory. We've seen Russian soldiers, short of weapons and morale, refusing to carry out orders, sabotaging their own equipment, and even accidentally shooting down their own aircraft.
On the ground, north of Kyiv, Ukrainian forces are securing areas recaptured from the Russians, their enemy still lying scattered around them. They were cannon fodder, just kids sent here, Alexander says, before a reminder that around the capital, all is not yet quiet. And in the besieged and battered southeastern city of Mariupol, they've been burying the dead in the streets. The UN estimates at least 5,000 civilians have been killed here. With conditions deteriorating, there's another promise of a ceasefire this morning to allow people to get out. But such promises have come and gone before. In his latest address, President Zelensky said the war was at a turning point, but cast doubt on Russia's claim that it's de-escalating the fighting.
We do not believe anyone. We do not trust any beautiful verbal constructions. There's a real situation on the battlefield. And now, this is the most important thing. We will not give up anything, and we will fight for every metre of our land, for every person.
But many have already left. The United Nations says more than 4 million Ukrainians have now fled to neighbouring countries. John Donnison, BBC News.
Well, our correspondent Jonah Fisher has been speaking to us from the west of Ukraine, Lviv, and gave me an update.
There has been some reports of shelling overnight heard in and around Kiev. We know that there was shelling in the town of Irpin to the north of the city, which Ukraine claims to have retaken. Also in Chernihiv, which is one of these cities which Russia announced that it was going to radically reduce its military operations in. But in terms of on the ground, well, the most intense fighting now appears to be focused on eastern Ukraine, where it looks like that Russia is trying to focus its territorial ambitions on taking territory there rather than in other parts of the country.
Well, the US says it has intelligence that President Vladimir Putin hasn't been told the truth about how badly things are going on the ground. Our correspondent, Jenny Hill, is in Moscow and told me more.
What's really interesting here is if you look at state television, and of course the vast majority of Russians do look at state television, read state-controlled newspapers, you would think that this special military operation, you're not supposed to call it a war, of course, is going extremely well. You know, pundits on state television last night were saying things like this operation will go down in the textbooks. Armies of the future will look to the Russian military and their operation as an example. So people here in Russia think that this is going actually according to plan. The Ministry of Defence last night, reflecting on those plans to reduce military activities around Kyiv and Chernihiv, as announced by Russian officials, were saying that actually this is all part of the plan. They'd only really been around cities like Kyiv in order to distract Ukrainian troops so that they could themselves concentrate on eastern Ukraine. As you know, the Russian military's plan is now to focus on the Donbass region. They say they want to, in their words, liberate that region. So really the message here is very much it's all going according to plan. And of course anyone who might have concerns about what's happening in Ukraine will potentially fall foul if they discuss them publicly of all sorts of laws, new and old, which criminalise anyone who seeks to, in the Kremlin's words, discredit the Russian military or spread fake news.